On August 28th, I'm going live and it's free. Join me for a free live event for witchy business owners who are ready to stop running their businesses like everyone else and start building something rooted in the divine feminine and magic. When you register, you get my free Business Witch Grimoire with 5 essential practices and your free seat for this event on August 28th, where I walk you through how to use this resource. It's free, it's live, and it leads you to Hex the Hustle, my 4-week Business Witch immersion in October. Register using the link in the show notes or visit my website, leandrawitchwood.com. Blessed be.
This time in the Magic Kitchen, we're talking Neurodivergent Witchcraft with Jenny C. Bell.
I'm Leandra Witchwood.
And I'm Elyse Wells.
And welcome to the Magic Kitchen podcast, where we talk about magic, kitchen witchcraft, herbs,
and everything in between. Jenny C. Bell is the author of Spirit Crystals, Discover Your Crystal Guide for Healing and Empowerment, and Divergent Witchcraft, an inclusive approach to making magic. She's also the creator of the Cosmic Creator Oracle deck. She's the founder of the Our Coven online community, host of the Cozy Coven Chats podcast, and a practicing witch. For 3 decades, Jenny has practiced yoga, meditation, read tarot cards, and worked with the healing powers of crystals. A Reiki master, meditation teacher, and budding herbalist, Jenny uses her years of wisdom to champion others on their witchy journey. Jenny can also be found with granddaughter Crow, chatting about spirituality and what lies beyond on the podcast Belief, Being, and Beyond. And you can learn more at jennycbell.com or follow the link in our show notes. Jenny, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, welcome. I'm excited for this one because we talk about ADHD, neurodivergence a lot. And I think on my end, it's because my son, he's fun and all over the place. So a lot of what you wrote in your book, I'm like, oh, yep. Yep. I see that. Yep. Okay. I'll try that with him.
Yeah. And I have ADHD and very late to the diagnosis, literally very, very slow to emerge. Even when they tried to diagnose me with things, they gave me high functioning anxiety. That was what they told me I was. And sure, yes, but because of, it was a very different, that was a long time ago. So I think we've learned a lot over the years. And I think that's the reality for a lot of witches is we realize later in life, especially for women, that we are neurodivergent. And then it's okay, well, I guess that explains why some of these things don't work for me, but what will work for me? And so I'm glad you wrote this book to try to answer that question. And actually, let's start. Would you just define for us, what is neurodivergence?
Yeah, so it's a big term, and it's bigger than I think some people realize. I've learned through research that neurodivergence is like a medical term, and it's basically that you diverge from the neurotypical or the normies, as we refer to them in our households, and how they think. And so it's more of a clinical term. And it encompasses all of autism, which is a huge spectrum. I think bigger than even we know. It encompasses anxiety. It encompasses OCD, ADHD, and all the variations of ADHD, because there's different variations, including mixed up with autism, dyscalculia, dyslexia. And so it's really a big umbrella. And I think the more I research and the more people I talk to, I think more people are neurodivergent than not. And
especially in our world.
Yes, especially in the witch world. Yes. And then, so we use the term divergent instead because I wanted people to be able to use this book if they didn't self-identify or they hadn't been diagnosed. If they always felt like maybe a little bit different or a little bit of an outsider, I wanted them to be able to still feel like they could use the book and not feel like it's just for a certain group of people. But honestly, I was a school teacher for 13 years, and what works for special ed works for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it. It's like we all can use the little chunking of information. We can all use visual aids. We can all use, practice activities. Like as a teacher, I did GATE training, which is gifted and talented education. So your smartest kids, they're special education. And people don't realize that. And so your most gifted children are special education. Your kids with learning disabilities are also special education. And then there's the kids in between. But when I was working, I was like, there's not really like that much of an in between. So it's like a lot of us can use all of the things that teachers, have in their kind of like toolbox, whether they have an official diagnosis or not. And so that's why we kind of went with Divergent. Also, to make something truly like neurodivergent, like if you were to write a book for someone with dyslexia, it has to be printed a certain way. And we just didn't do that. Like that wasn't in the budget, that wasn't in the vision. And so I can't come out here and be like, this is a perfect book for someone with dyslexia, because I've seen those books, they're printed differently. And so there will be an audiobook that comes out later. It's coming out in late July. So I think that'll be really helpful for a lot of people. But yeah, so that's why we kind of went neurodivergence, one thing. Let's use the term divergent so that we can kind of umbrella more people. Because I also threw in highly sensitive people into the mix. I'm like, you know what? Highly sensitive people, I was diagnosed highly sensitive originally, and I still think I am. And then family members are, and they definitely could use these things as well.
Nice.
Have you come
I forget that
across
dyslexia
RSD?
is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and dyslexia piggybacks with ADHD quite a lot. Like,
all the time. And I
Yeah.
learned recently
I'm
dyslexia.
dyslexic.
Well, I learned recently it's a spectrum also.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It can be like, for me, well, okay, I'm high masking because growing up, I had to learn how to be normal. Doing the air quotes, guys. You had to be normal. But it still happens when I'm reading stuff. And I'll read words that aren't there, or words will disappear. The B's and the D's, and with numbers.
Yes.
So yeah, it never went away, but I'm high masking because I had to be, because I had to survive. Yeah. I forgot that it's in there. Okay, all three of us. Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Nice.
I'm trying to remember what I was about to say. Oh, yeah. I remember. Have you come across RSD, rejection syndrome dysphoria?
I don't have personal experience with that. I have more experience with oppositional defiance disorder as a teacher. Yeah. And so that's a hard one to work with as a teacher, as a parent. So I have more experience with that than not the rejection one. I'm aware of it. But yeah, I think that's the thing, is like there's so many divergences. Like I think everyone should go to therapy. And when you get to therapy, you will be diagnosed with something. Like no matter if you felt like I'm normal, I'm living the best life, which I don't know anybody that feels that way except for like Jeff Goldblum. And so I feel like we all get diagnosed if we go, basically. That's my own theory on that.
Yeah. I actually think we'll move away from like the word. I know there's like medical reasons to give people a label, but I think we'll move away from the need for diagnosis more and more just like, because I think of like, I used to be very anti-labels. Like I think in the 90s, that was the world, right? We were like, don't label me, don't put me in a box. And now I think we use labels to come out of the box, like to be like, no, actually, I don't want to be in anyone's box. And that's why I'm going to give you these caveats to like who I am, why I am. So I think we're in this lovely pendulum swing with that. But I think that's the side effect, is there's so much terminology and it's like, what? I've never heard of that one. So I want to briefly, just for those listening, RSD, rejection syndrome dysphoria, it also piggybacks with ADHD. And it's basically that you have this chain reaction. And if you know more about this, Jenny, jump in if I'm incorrect about this. I've read one book on it called, I think it was just called like RSD or something like that. It's the yellow one. That's the only thing I can remember about the cover.
It's yellow.
but I have synesthesia, another neurodivergent. So anything that's colored.
A cool one.
It is such a cool one. It is such a good one to have.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I got ADHD and I got really excited.
Get excited.
Yeah. No, it's such a good one to have. That's the one where, for those listening, where you see colors for words
Mhm.
and sounds. So, like, we were in the airport and they verbally told us our gate, and my husband was like, "Was it 47 or 42?" And I said, and I said, "No, it was 48." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I think it was one of the others. I said, "No, because it was yellow." And he's like, "Oh, right."
Yeah.
It's like that's like my brain. If it was 42 or 47, it would have been teal or green, bro. Like, trust me on this.
He trusted.
But yeah, so RSD is that when something is a no, and it doesn't have to be real rejection. That's why I said when something is a no, it is perceived as rejection. And then this is the horrifying ADHD part. This is the science to it in very layman's terms, but it becomes a chain reaction of recalling in your body every other time you have been rejected. So somebody says, you go to order a coffee and you say, "Can I have an oat milk latte?" And they say, "No, we don't have oat milk. We have almond." For some reason, that reads as rejection in your brain. And then you're thinking of that time your mom said no to you. And then you're thinking of that time your wife said no to you. And then
An
before you know it, you have the
ex-girlfriend
worst.
and yeah.
Yeah. So it's taking things personally to a whole other level. So it's an extension. A lot of people who are HSPs, highly sensitive people, they also really suffer with RSD, and that is such a heavy one. Like when I learned about that, somebody very close to me was kind of diagnosed with that, and it made me very sad, very, very sad. Like I felt so awful. I was like, oh my God, how many times have I triggered this? But then you work through it and you realize like, oh no, it's just something for us all to be aware of. It's
Right.
no one's being blamed here, but yeah, it's heavy. It's a heavy one.
It is heavy. Yeah. And I think I liked what you're saying too about we are in a labeling, because we're doing that too with queerness. There's a lot of like labels with that. And my daughter's Gen Z, she's a teenager, and she's like, "Mom, every time I meet someone, it's like I'm this, like whatever sexuality, and I have this diagnosis from my therapist." And she's it's like out of the gate. Like that's just Gen Z is like, here, just so you know, this is what you're getting into. I'm a bisexual and I have, ADHD. And they're like, just putting it out there. If you're not okay with that, move on, basically. And so I think you're right. The pendulum has really swung with their generation. A lot of them are going to therapy. And which is cool. And I think it'll eventually kind of find the middle ground. But for them, I think there's an empowerment that I was trying to explain with like older generations. Like I'm a millennial. We had the R word.
Mm-hmm.
And the R word, like my aunt would always call me the R word. Like anytime I did anything wrong, she'd be like, "What are you, an R?" And it was, it was really, I don't talk to her, but she was something, let me tell you. And she'd call my cousin that, and it was just thrown around all the time. And so I think with our generation, being labeled was scary because it was like, oh, I'm the R word, and I don't want anybody to know that. And so it was disempowering. It felt like you were because I remember I got diagnosed with dyscalculia in college, and my professor's like, "You want me to do the paperwork and this and that?" I was like, "Nope. Don't label it. This is my last math class. I don't need anybody to know." That's how I felt because I was on a path to be a school teacher. And I thought, what if they see that and they're like, "You can't teach kids.
Yeah,
You're
same.
dumb. You're dumb.
Yeah.
You're the R word." Like that's what was ingrained in our generation, I feel.
Yeah.
And
I felt the same way about ADHD. I didn't let my college put it. They were like, "You can get accommodations this was for anxiety even. It wasn't even correctly diagnosed, but they were like, and I was like, "No, I'm not getting that. They won't hire me as a teacher." That was what I thought.
The Magic Kitchen podcast is funded and supported by thewitchwoodteahouse.com, offering a variety of hand-blended loose leaf teas as well as loose herbs for all of your ritual, spell work, wellness, and everyday enjoyment needs. If you would like to support this podcast while sipping a great cup of tea, head over to thewitchwoodteahouse.com and find the magic that's in store for you.
Yeah. And now their generation feels empowered by it. This is how my brain works. And I can do these things. And it's beautiful. It's like so opposite of like how I grew up that I feel, I don't know, I like it. I think it's overboard. Like we have swung the other way if they're introducing themselves that way. We live in a very we call it the Ashland bubble here in Southern Oregon. It's a very liberal, it's very new agey. And so I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but it's the case here.
I like that kids are empowered to own their quirks or their identity. Not like I have this conversation with my son all the time because he always comes in and he's on a rant and he's telling me everything about everything. And like I know more about the Star Wars universe than I ever wanted to know. and I'll look at him and we have a conversation. So we've been in therapy together since he was 5. And so I've learned to understand him and then vice versa. And so we have like a rule that when one of us is overstimulated by what the other person is doing, we raise our hand. and he will always end it. Well, he'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go now. I just have a touch of the tism, and that's what I find like most people on this spectrum, neurodivergent people, have a great sense of humor. Yes. I've only met a few where their identity is so ingrained in them that they get offended if you don't adhere to that strictly. And I know there's some out there that are very, very in line, and maybe that's the OCD part of it. But most of them, and I guess I can put myself in there because of the dyslexia. We have great sense of humors. Like we're great to be around. We're funny. We love to laugh.
I think I'm hilarious. That. So I appreciate you saying that.
I don't know you very well, but you're hilarious. I love it.
I relate because my son, I know everything about Minecraft. I've never played, but I think I could play with blindfold because I know everything.
And one thing that my son and I share is the Lord of the Rings universe, all the Tolkien stuff. And he's
maybe
been
that's
playing.
The test. Are you obsessed with Lord of the Rings? If so, welcome to the spectrum.
welcome to it. And so my path, one of my traditions that I'm initiated into is a Tolkien elven tradition. So we've taken that universe.
Girl. This is how Leandra and I met, by the way. We had this conversation beside a river and never looked back. That was like 10 years ago.
So part of it is like I have to know the Silmarillion because that's like the Bible of the universe. And so he was in my office yesterday. It was like 9:30 in the morning. I'm trying to work. I've already buckled down. I'm trying to work. And he's blah, 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 blah. And did you know this? And did you know that? And I'm like, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Did you know that this person was a Nazgul and blah, blah, blah. He's like going off. He's like, and we don't know about much about it because it's in the second age, blah, 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 blah. And so part of my training is I had to learn Quenya because that is the most developed language that Tolkien created. Now, keep in mind, it's only 900 words. You can't really have a conversation.
I was going to say, it has more words than Sindarin, but less grammar.
Yes.
So which one is more developed? That's a different podcast.
Well, and side note, what you hear in the movies is all made up. They had to make it up for the movies, and it's mostly Sindarin. So the elves that are supposed to be speaking Quenya are speaking Sindarin. So that's just there's my divergence.
So many inaccuracies, Peter Jackson.
No, it's really not. It's fine. It's fine. But
water under the bridge.
So I will speak to him in Quenya, and it confuses him because he doesn't know it. And then he'll go, "What'd you just say?" I'm like, "You have to find out. Go look it up." And then he'll leave me for a little while.
That's good. You gave him a puzzle to solve, which I learned.
Give him a puzzle.
Yeah, when I got my gate training, that they like kids on the spectrum, especially like puzzles to solve and riddles to solve. And I was like, I would give my class riddles, and they would just be so engaged. It was like magic.
Yes. Yeah. And I found that it has to be related to something that he's hyper focused on at the moment. So I guess that leans into witchcraft. The nerve. I've noticed that when he is hyper focused on something, he's so lit up about it, like it is all consuming, and he will learn everything about it and then drop it and then go on to the next thing. How do you find that valid in witchcraft? Like, do you find it in, because you said you're studying herbalism, I can imagine that would be part of it. What's your experience there?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm on TikTok. I know it's a bad word to a lot of witches. I'm a witch talk, and I'm one of the few on there that takes the time to answer the baby witches questions. And I get a lot of in there, and then in my private community are coven a lot of late diagnosed neurodivergent women, middle-aged, who also have perimenopause. So hey girls, if you're in that club, me too. And
Yep.
so and they're finding witchcraft. So it's like this, I wish I could draw like a circle. So it's like perimenopause, late diagnosis, or thinking maybe they're neurodivergent, and then they're interested in witchcraft. And it's like amazing. A lot of them come from like religious trauma and backgrounds like that. And they're finding witchcraft to be empowering. And that's what's cool, like on that note. But when anytime when I went to Spirit Northwest recently, I had witch after witch. I won't name names because it's not my story, but like famous witches that we all know come up to me and be like, I just got diagnosed with ADHD. Or I've always thought I've had autism, or blah, blah. And it was like witch after, and I was like, there's something to this. And so what I think is I've learned that some people view witchcraft as a hobby. And then there's those of us that maybe start off that way, and then it becomes like a way of life. And that's kind of like, I am working on another book that's going to be more about like the way of life. Because I recently discovered that a lot of people were like dipping in, learning stuff, enjoying it, and then being like, but I don't know what to do with it. Like they didn't know how to put it into like, aside from like some rituals or celebrating the Sabbaths or celebrating the moon, they were like, okay, I learned stuff. I'm going to drop it and move on to the next thing because I don't know how to ingrain it into my life. And so for me, what has helped me is all the different paths, right? Like I started with crystals and stones. I was like, learned a lot about that, a deep dive into tarot, continue. Now I'm into herbalism and diving into herbalism and green witchcraft, because there's so many things we can do within witchcraft that I think that kind of like keeps the ADHD like mind busy. Like you can, pick a different hyperfixation within the big umbrella of witchcraft.
There's so much.
Yeah, there's so much. Like you just sparked stuff in me about Lord of the Rings. I'm like, oh, like this is a missed opportunity that what? So yeah. And we hear about new stuff all the time. Like I took a couple classes recently, and one of them like sparked something, and I'm like, oh, I don't really know anything about that. And then on to the research, and
Yes.
yeah. And I think that's why I've always said I was a lifelong learner. Didn't know that was typical of like neurodivergent people at the time. I was just like lifelong learner because I love to learn.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes
Kind of blows my
absolute
mind when
sense.
people don't do that. Like, how do you not keep learning things? What are you doing instead?
Yeah.
I
Aren't
can't
you
do
bored?
it.
For fun. Yes, aren't you bored? That's the thing. I don't get it. I'm like, I would be so bored if I wasn't learning something at the moment. I can't imagine that. And I don't think I'm like better than anybody for that. I just like, I would be so bored if I wasn't learning or actively learning herbalism at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, herbalism on its own is such a rabbit hole. I mean, yeah. I've been doing that for 20 something years. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, it's the novelty thing, right? With ADHD, that's so important. It's like, how do you keep something fresh? And we have to keep our practices fresh to encourage that same connection, to encourage connection, I guess. And for me, that's like diving deeper into the past, like literally excavating spiritual archaeology is what I think of it as. Like, what were these priestesses doing? Okay, what was the generation before them doing? Okay, what about? And so mostly in Greece, like the Mediterranean is my focus, but outside of Greece, also Malta, Italy, Sicily, Sardinia. There's just a lot of excavation of like, okay, 9,000 BC. Okay, 20,000 BC. Like, what were they doing? So that seems like novelty, but it also is this like returning spiral of it's the same work, it's just a deeper appreciation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the hardest thing for in a witchcraft practice for most divergent folks, meditation. Imagine awakening your intuitive gifts in the land of the oracles, where it all began. At Intuition Activation, my retreat in 2027, you will walk the sacred grounds of hidden oracles, be initiated at Delphi, and hold ceremony in the Karikian cave, the birthplace of the Pythia, where you will deepen your ability to hear, trust, and embody your inner knowing. Between these powerful experiences, you'll return to a luxury villa in rural, untouched Greece, where you can integrate beside the pool or the sea. This intimate retreat is limited to only 5 people. Reserve your place at ElyseWells.com/visit Greece.
Yeah, meditation. So I wrote about it in my first book, Spirit Crystals, also, even though they were like, why are you putting all these accommodations in there? I was like, I will do that till the day I die. You will always find accommodations in all of my books. So it's in there too. And in here in Divergent Witchcraft, I decided to like start the book off with like what I called like the foundation or roots. And it was like meditation, journaling, and making an altar. Because I feel like if you can do those 3 things, you can have kind of a working understanding of any path after that. And I wanted, this book is like, to me, it's like an introduction and a jumping off point for people, right? So that was the idea. I was like, let me give you all these skills that they're going to talk about in other books and assume you already know. And so with the meditation, I focus on in the book about meditative moments, because I think that everybody has those. And I just want to get people to recognize them. So the moment when you are lost track of time, like you're crocheting or you're beading or you're coloring or you're dancing or whatever, and time is gone, that's a meditative moment because you're in the flow. And so I think there's like this big, I don't know, I've been meditating for over 20 years and I've looked at different paths and this and that. And there's this big kind of Western understanding that meditation is silent and it's a clearing of the mind. But Buddhists will tell you that meditation is a practice, meaning that every day is a new one. It's a new mind that you're dealing with, and they don't always clear their mind. Like even someone who's a monk, we used to go to a Buddhist temple and there was monks that lived there. They're not always clearing their mind. It's not, and if it happens, and when it happens, like a lot of us will be like, oh, my mind's clear. And then it's not. So
It's like the game.
Yeah.
Remember the game when we were children?
Yeah. So it's like that.
You've lost. Yep.
Exactly. And so for me, I was like, okay, I used to teach meditation in my classroom as just like a little tool for kids to use. And this was in a rural, very Christian community. And I got some deep hatred from people in the counseling department, which was funny to me. Like the irony, you're a counselor.
Yeah.
Anyway. But what we would do is like, you could sit however you want. So that's number 1 is with meditation. If you're neurodivergent, you're like, I can't meditate. Number 1, are you trying to get into some weird pose that you think you should be in? Because not a lot of people who are neurodivergent have hypermobility. They have lots of body, like you're also not just neurodivergent in your mind, you're neurodivergent in your body. So I personally have like arthritis in my hips and I have like all kinds of things. I've had like naturopaths be like, you're kind of borderline this, borderline that. Basically, they don't know what's wrong. And so over time, I just figured out how to like move my body in a different way. So number 1, you do whatever you want. It's comfortable for your body. Number 2, you should be wearing clothes that are comfortable. Because the moment I sit down and I have an itchy tag, that is all I can feel and think about.
We're done. Yeah.
We are done. The itchy tag is destroying my life.
Yeah. Yep.
The bra is too tight. Like the belt is too tight. I don't ever wear jeans. I could never meditate in a pair of jeans because like all of my rolls sitting over the jeans is really uncomfortable to me. And then they make me sweat on top of it. So, so no. So you got to be comfortable in your body. You got to make sure your clothes are comfortable. That's like half the battle, I think, to me, as like a person that like moves around a lot. And then the next thing is you don't have to be still. So I've always taught walking meditation. I think it's one of the best forms of meditation. It's what I personally do. I will take a walk with my dog, no headphones, sometimes headphones, but maybe listen to music and just try to be like, I'm here. I'm walking. I'm seeing flowers. I'm looking at the sky. The sun is shining. The temperature is this. I feel a breeze. And all it is about coming into the present moment, into my body. And that is part of meditation too. And so you can walk, you can swing, you can dance. I used to give students tennis balls to put under their feet. A lot of my ADHD kids, like if we had to sit for a test, I gave them tennis balls and then they just roll them under their feet. I'm a big fan of like mala beads and rosaries. Like it's a good fidget for this, like moving your hands. I've found a lot of people in neurodivergence like a mantra, and it could be, or an affirmation. And that's just the idea of you could take anything, love, and you just repeat the word love over and over and over again, out loud, whisper it, sing it in your mind. It's like stimming. And it helps to clear out some other thoughts because you're just like, love, 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 love. George Harrison has this like famous story about driving for like 12 hours and just doing a mantra for the entire drive. And this, he felt like high at the end because it was just like, I feel amazing. And he was like totally awake, even though he should be tired. It was like this very empowering spiritual moment for him. So mantras are really, or affirmations, they don't have to be, you don't have to get a mantra from someone. It doesn't have to be light language. It can just be like a word that you like, right? Or a word that you feel like peace, love. It could be a song. I find like silent meditation unnerves a lot of people. Some people don't like to close their eyes. They have like that gives them anxiety. And so like just, especially if they've had trauma. So there's something in yoga called drishti, which is where you let your eyes relax and you gaze at something. So you could pick like a tarot card or a mandala and you just let your eyes relax and gaze and kind of like, this is what I'm doing. People with aphantasia, just if you're listening and that's you and you can't visualize, when we meditation teachers, when we're telling you to visualize, we're just trying to take you out of wherever you are and put you somewhere else. So if you can't visualize, all you have to do is you can get a piece of paper and you can start drawing what you think that you're understanding. That's meditation. Eyes open, active hand. You're drawing like if someone's saying, okay, now you're at a temple. Sketch out the temple. Even if you're a crappy artist, it's not a problem, right? It could be like children's drawing. You could be coloring, and you're going to get something out of the practice. And there's just so many aspects of meditation. So Insight Timer is free app. I recommend it to people all the time. There's a paid portion, but there's a lot of free meditations on there. I have meditations on there that are free. And it's like, I want you to just choose your own adventure. Like, don't give up. Don't think you have to sit still. Don't think you have to be quiet. Don't think you have to clear your mind. Just pick something that works for you. And if you're like, you know what, gardening's my meditation, then gardening's your meditation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. In the Earth Temple arts that I teach, I really focus on, it's funny because as you're talking, I'm like, oh, all of these are neurodivergent accommodations. I've just never thought of it that way. But I really focus on like giving people the postures of the ancient priestesses. How do you hold your body? Is that movement or is it simply holding it? Or are you holding it and then letting your body guide that movement? So, from here, for those listening, I'm raising my arms side to side, like you might see a lot of ancient priestesses doing. From here, maybe you realize you want to do a little back bending and you want to lean forward. And so you're doing that as you're quote unquote meditating. And then you add to that, like I teach different tones to activate, the chakra points, essentially the serpentine energy of the body. And those tones also become an intuitive thing. Like you use them as you want to. I actually watched a documentary on the plane back from Greece this summer on curandeiras in Brazil. And in Brazil, they have this concept that I have learned through the Mediterranean lens, but it's the same thing. They call them Icaros, and they are songs of the place. So like a river has a song, and if you learn to listen to it, then you can sing it back to the river. But I find sound, and people are like, oh, I'm not a good singer. That's not at all.
That's not
like if your voice sounds like voice, it's good. That's what it's here for. So these Icaros are like these songs of the land, and I hear them too, like the Susquehanna River. Like if I am meditating there, she's got to be singing this song, and it's the same song every time, but it changes. Sometimes it's about river flow, sometimes it's about water run, but it's the same kind of music, and I think it's my humanness that likes to add words to it, but the tone, the melody is the same. And then I also teach the frame drum because the same. It's this fidget, essentially like a hand use frame drum. You don't need to learn it. Like you really can just have a good time playing it. And then, if you do learn a system, like I teach like a trading system, then it's fantastic because you get that additional context for what you're essentially channeling as you drum. So I actually think neurodivergent people have a greater aptitude for what the overarching goal of meditation can be, which is connection. Like I think a lot of us, especially in the witch world, we're doing trance, we're doing astral journeys. Like we're trying to connect and receive guidance. And it's actually neurotypicals that struggle more in my meditations and in my courses than neurodivergent folks. So if you're neurodivergent, you're like, oh, but I just wish I could. No, you can.
Yeah.
You
Whatever
can.
you wish you could
Yeah.
do, you can, and you can really excel at it.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I agree 100%. In my own practice, like, and also like this with neurodivergence, we can't keep the same thing all the time. So if
Oh,
you
yeah.
are like, okay, I figured out I like rosary beads and I like to say prayer, do this, and that's my meditation. Maybe a month from now, you're going to be like, I can't do this anymore. And so you're going to have to, that's why it's important to have like a toolbox, I think, as witches, as spiritual folk, like just have a variety of things. That's what this sustains the practice. And so like in the book too, I talk about there's a section in the books like choose your own adventure. There's like kitchen witchcraft and, I talk about plants, I talk about stones, I talk about animals. And that's because I want the reader to be like, this is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go get a book on herbs or green witchcraft, or I'm going to go get a book on stones. And because that's the best part. Like you get to choose and keep yourself fresh. Another thing too is I was going to say with meditation, a lot of neurodivergent people don't want to be perceived. Like we don't want to be watched and possibly judged depending on what's going on inside of you, how you think about other people on what we're doing. So if you're going to try meditation, it's, I think, so vitally important to be alone and like alone. Like I have a friend who really feels like she cannot meditate unless everybody's out of the house. She just feels like she's being perceived, that they know that she's meditating. There's like a judgment in the air. And it's just like, and there's nothing wrong with the way thinking like this. We all have like our line of thinking. And so she just feels like she cannot meditate with everybody home. It just feels like they're perceiving her. Like they know she's meditating and she doesn't like that they know that. And so I think with a lot of neurodivergent people, we need alone time. That's very sacred to us and that fills our cups very much so. No matter what your sun sign is or whatever, if you're an introvert, an extrovert, none of that. I think we all need alone time and it's like sacred. But that is, if you're neurodivergent and you took like a meditation class and you struggled, it could be because you felt like other people were getting it or other people were judging you or other people were watching you. Because that's a very vulnerable thing to close your eyes in front of strangers. And a lot of neurodivergent people really don't like that because it feels like they're judging me. They're perceiving me. I don't want to be perceived. I don't want anybody to see me. So definitely if you can get an alone time, alone space, even in your car, if you have to lay back the seat, because the house is full and the house is busy. It's like, I know there's someone in our coven who has like a sunroof and she opens up the sunroof and like when everybody's asleep, it's when the moon is out and she just lays there. And that's how she does her rituals because there's neighbors that are nosy and she doesn't want to be in her house. And so she's just in her car and her cars become her altar and her sacred place. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. No, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, and I think more everyday things should be our altar. They should be our sacred spaces, especially as witches. We should carry our magic no matter where we go, and we can implement that in the most mundane ways. We don't have to have, we don't have to have our practice on display necessarily, but when you could hang a moon charm and then there's your symbol, or you make your own symbol. I have a student right now. We always joke with her because she hates doing sigil magic. So I'm always joking with her because when I give options to my students, I give them that variety. If you don't like this, try this. If you don't like that, do this. And I'm always giving my students the framework that they can build on, because I think that's the point of our path, is to make it your own. I mean, if you follow a tradition, they have their rules, they have their guidelines, they have their protocols. Follow those. But when it comes to your personal practice, what you do as an individual, you need to make it yours. And Yeah. So we're always joking with her that we're going to give her sigil magic, and she's like, "No, I'm not going to do it." I'm like, "You don't have to."
Has she read Sigil Witchery by Laura? By Laura Tempest?
I don't think she has, but she just
she's probably thinking of like Austin Osman Spare sigils.
She
and
is.
like
There's definitely like a perfectionism type thing there, and an expectation that she's growing out of. She's it's a out of that she's growing out of and evolving out of.
If you hate sigils, you haven't read LTZ's book.
Yeah, go get that book. I still use it sometimes. Yeah,
I hate
her cards.
I was gonna say shamelessly plugging Laura, but yeah, her Sigil Witchery deck is also excellent because you can create. Yeah. Come to Samhainfest. She's our keynote this year, October 31st, November 1st. Have a Grace, Maryland. Be there or be square. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that giving people options is a great way to accommodate and adapt, because I think that's what a lot of new witches get hung up on. Yes. Well, I have to check all the boxes. I have to do it the way they said to do it. No, you don't. That's a suggestion. That's how they do it. It works for them. So take what you like about that and see how it works for you. Now, of course, that is different. Like if you were following a closed tradition, if you're following a tradition that has very specific, do this, then that, don't do that when, this, that sort of way.
But watch for those. Because like I'm part of a tradition that has a lot of, as we say in parts of the Caribbean, guidelines. But we don't follow them to a strict adherence either. And we don't. Right. So be careful with that. Because I mean, that's a discernment conversation. Another thing neurodivergent folks
we already talked about that. Yeah.
We have our radar pretty attuned to bullshit. The bullshit meter, right? But it is a thing. Like, so if your tradition is a little too rigid, consider why, and if it actually makes sense or not. Yeah. But that's a different thing. Yeah. I have a last question for us. It's actually a really big one, but what you said about the perfectionism made me think of it. Shame. I think there's a lot of it, and sometimes it's religious trauma coming in with like the monotheistic God will punish me, sin is bad thing.
Hustle culture. Oh my gosh.
There's hustle culture, but then there's also like I don't want to, like a lot of neurodivergent folks, like we were all gifted kids, so we don't want to disappoint teacher. Like, what is your advice, Jenny, to folks who struggle to actually practice because they don't want to mess up or because they don't want to disappoint or like how do you navigate shame in your circles? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something I learned working with beginner witches in our coven, because I have always been like, so typical of my own kind of neurodivergence, I've always been like, I'll just try anything and I'll do it on my own. Like I never read directions. It infuriates my husband. So I'm like, we got this new thing. And I'm just like, and he's like, what are you doing? You didn't read the directions. It's like, well, if I can't figure it out, then I'll refer to the directions. So it was kind of similar.
Okay. I feel called out right now.
Kind of similar for me with witchcraft is like, okay, I read like the Wicca books by Scott Cunningham, and I was like, I think I have a framework. I'm going to run with it. And I, was borrowing books and whatever. But I've learned that so many people don't want to do that because they've come from a very rigid, either home life, they've come from a rigid work life, they come from a rigid religious background, or they just have a lot of like shame about being a witch. Like there's that witch wound. Some people like really find that term offensive and think it's like new agey and weird. And some people really get it and identify with it. But I think it's real. It's real in the culture. Like witch is still not, like you can't be a witch in all the countries. It's still illegal in some countries. There are still witch hunts. There are still people killed for witchcraft. I know like there's a woman in Pennsylvania fighting like to read tarot because it's still illegal to read tarot in Pennsylvania and charge money for it.
Yeah, that's our friend Beck. Serpent's Key, look it up, call your reps, PA people.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And so there's all of that because it's like social, it's cultural, it's all the things. But then there's the internal of like, so many witches come to me and be like, I just want to know everything and be good at it. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't like that thing. This isn't a report card. There's no judgment. I know I've talked to Patty and I agree about this. A lot of witches are like, well, how do I know when I'm a witch? And so that's why like the very last chapter of my book is you're a witch now. Because Patty and I say like they just want someone to tell them you're a witch now. Like wiggle your nose. you're a witch. Like a lot of people want this kind of permission. So that was part of it, is like some people just need the permission. And I can tell you, I'm giving you, anybody listening, you're a witch. I've just given you permission to be a witch and do all the witchy things. Some people don't want to do spells. I've come across that. They tell me like, I don't actually want to do a spell, but I want to do everything else. Does that make me not a witch? I'm like, no, honey, you're a witch. Like, you don't have to do spells. Like, that's come across that. Another thing I come across a lot with wrapped up with the shame is a feeling of overwhelm. And that's the last chapter of the book is becoming overwhelmed. They get overwhelmed with all of the possibility, all of the different and very conflicting things you'll read, especially on the internet. So I talk about reading trusted sources, like knowing if someone's talking to you on a video, well, who is this person? And how long have they been practicing? And where did they get their information? Don't let them shame you and make you feel bad because your altar doesn't look like theirs. If they're like over here, like, don't let your altar get dusty and like, in your face and stuff. To me, that's a red flag. Like if anybody
So don't look back here.
if anybody's like yelling at me or telling me I can't do this or it's a no, or if you do this, you're not a good witch. There was recently a whole thing in our coven, whole discussion. There was someone saying that if you were not skinny.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
It was all on TikTok that if you're not skinny, then obviously you're not good at witchcraft, because if you were good at witchcraft, you could glamour yourself to be skinny. And I was like, girl, you're in your 20s. Talk to me when you hit 40 and we'll talk about how hard it is to be skinny.
Why are we basing our witchcraft off of patriarchal pedophilic standards? First of all,
take up less space. Like what? Yeah.
It's
That's
crazy.
Wild.
And then another one they brought up to me because they are all like on TikTok. Yeah. Take up space.
Take up space.
Let your roles be free. I actually, speaking of the sidetrack, because neurodivergent, but I recently, I'm going to be posting a little tiny clip of myself in a bathing suit. And this took a lot of thought and whatever. And it was because I want to be part of the new dialogue of seeing like women. I'm a mid-size, I'm a size 12. I want to see women with those bodies on my feed. And so anyway, I digress. And so there's a lot of like shame involved. Like if I'm a witch, why am I not rich? That was another thing going around TikTok. Like if you're broken a witch, you're not a real witch. I was like, maybe I never manifested for money. You don't know what I'm doing. That's not why I'm here. Yeah, I'm here for like spiritual fulfillment. I'm not here to get rich. That's like another patriarchal thing. That's a whole patriarchal standard to get rich and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Get rich, be skinny. Like what? Girl, you need to like do some inner work, right?
And then there's the pendulum swing on that, where you have to be the martyr. You have to be poor and you have to be totally sacrificing. Yeah,
Yeah, like you can't charge for any of your tarot readings or your healing. And if you were a real witch, you wouldn't charge. I was like, well, if I was a witch back in the village, you would bring me a cow for healing you.
Exactly.
A cow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cows, dozens of eggs, service trades, all accepted. Unfortunately, yeah.
I mean, the ancient druids, they were buried with wealth. They were buried with gold and precious gems. So, yeah. Okay. That's a whole other, we could go.
Yeah. Deconstructing our shame. And I think the reason that as divergent folks like that, we get really up in arms about people telling us what to do is, sure, it's, maybe it's oppositional defiance disorder, ODD, but I also think it's just, we are very justice oriented. Yes. So we don't there was recently an issue with like a mutual friend in our coven and mutual acquaintance and like some toxicity. And so we brought it up to a non-coven member who was very close with them. And my whole coven's neurodivergent. This person is not at all. They're very neurotypical. And they were like, oh, well, okay, that's a shame that she did that. And I just couldn't, like, there was no uprising in her. She was like, literally like, okay, sure. Yeah, I probably wouldn't collaborate with her then if I know that. Thanks. And that was it. There was no like all of us are like, what do we do? Like, how do we save the world about this? Like, it's like, it's
who do we tell?
So to heart. Yeah. And it was like such an interesting mirror of like, oh yeah, no, we just care a lot. Like,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And it's okay to care a lot, but it's okay to not be perfect in your practice too. It's a practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like witchcraft is a practice.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I
I
think that's
always say,
a good way
yeah.
to define yourself as a witch is, do you practice witchcraft? Because it's not just, it's not like Christianity where you, oh, I just believe it, so therefore I am. Like, it's a practice. Do you do the witchy thing? Do you do the spell or not? Maybe you do the.
You dance for the goddess. You
Yeah,
dance
there
for
you
the
go.
goddess.
There you go.
Yeah.
You make
Do
the
you flirt
sigil.
with the moon on the full moon?
You talk to the moon. Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go. You talk to the trees. Do you talk to the plants? Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. All of that.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for being here. This is such a good conversation.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you wrote this book. And that is, again, Divergent Witchcraft by Jenny C. Bell, everybody. You can get that wherever books are sold. But I always encourage people, do go to your local bookstore or ask your library to order it in, or both, because they
Yes.
always order more than one copy. So libraries or maybe will, but bookstores always do. They always order at least 5. So it's really helpful for authors to do that. Is there anything else you have coming up? I think this episode's going to come out in the summer, in August or late July.
No, but I would love to invite everybody to check out our coven. It's jennycbell.com. It's a online private community. We have a whole kind of new witch school in there. So we mainly have people who live in rural areas or in areas where they can't be out and they want to have a private online community. We're not on major social media, so no one knows you're in the group. So that's key. It's very private. So if you join, it's not on Facebook, everyone knows what groups you're in. And then because it's private, we don't get trolls or people calling you beloved and giving you ancestral readings you didn't ask for. So
Grand Rising, love.
yeah. I'm block.
Report, block, report, block.
Yeah. And so we do a live, I don't know what we'll be doing later in the summer. Sometimes we have guests. So we have people come in and we just have a really good astrology live. I just did one recently on journaling, which I have a love-hate relationship with, and I talk about in the book. And so we did that. We get together, we have a live chat. Every day people check in, and it's nice. We do these little challenges where we share photos and people exchange card readings for free. It's there's no money. It's a barter system. I'll read for you, you read for me. It's a really good place to learn and grow, but also to connect with other witches and ask questions. Something that I recently talked about on Granddaughter Crow's podcast, Belief Being and Beyond, was the increase of AI and all of this, and how do you trust your source? I'm in the live chat there every day. So if you have a question, you don't have to go to an AI source or go to the internet and not know if it's true. I will tell you. And if I can't find it, I'll go to my metaphysical library that's a mile down the road and I will find out for you. So, that's kind of the best part, I think, of the coven, is having the witch is in, and I can answer the questions. But yeah, if that sounds good to people are looking for a connection, I invite you to join us.
Thank you. And we'll put all the links in the show notes for everyone. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Talking to you.
I'm looking forward to your Lord of the Rings podcast that you guys are going to start.
I don't know. We can't compete with the Prancing Pony podcast. That one's it. Merry meet,
Merry part, and merry meet again.
Thank you for joining us on the Magick Kitchen podcast. Please visit my website, leandrawitchwood.com, for news, information, and more episodes.
I'm Elyse Wells. You can learn more about my current offerings and my upcoming retreats to Greece at ElyseWells.com. That's ELYSEWELLES.com. Join Leandra and me this Halloween at Samhainfest, October 31st and November 1st in Havre de Grace, Maryland. This awesome festival has Laura Tempest-Zakroff as our keynote speaker, and you'll be able to shop handcrafted treasures and connect with your ancestors in a powerful Samhain ritual led by my coven. You can enjoy witchy covers from queer cryptid rock band Field of Embers on Saturday night, and we've got lots of speakers, including diversity and queer ancestor practices with Enfys J. Book, decolonizing death with Reverend Ron Padron, ancestral tattooing with Jake Morningstar, poison path magic with Datura with Kobe Michael, honoring the dead with Judy Ann Knock, and I will be speaking on how to work with Artemis and Hecate as guides of life and death. Leandra will be there hosting a tea ceremony, and all of us will be available for book signings. You can get your tickets at samhainfest.com. That is SAMHAIN fest.com. We hope to see you there.